aspects that emerge right now. One is clearly the lack of supervision on the part of the government. SOP is being flouted, and there is nobody to ensure that the people who are doing so are penalized. But Raghav Chaudhary, as somebody who runs a travel company, are profits forcing people to prioritize money over people's safety?
Good evening, Priya, and all of the viewers. And as rightly said, Air Marshal, some points we agree, and even government also has taken a lot of steps since you focus in early years, 2013 onwards, when the new government has formed. A lot of steps. A lot of lobbying has been stopped by the government. Earlier, even the ticket selling used to happen through the lobbying. But now the government has taken so many steps. Still, there are things, uncontrollable things when it comes to the ticket selling. Government has done everything online, have the tenders, contracts, all the private vendors. And coming to the technical parts of this airline operations, still government and bodies need to focus on small airlines, as Air Marshal rightly said, private operators, whether it is small captors or small aircrafts, whether it is Vaishno Devi, Chardham, or all these private operators are operating. The lot of incentives has to be focused. Lot of involvement, government involvement, day-to-day basis also is mandatory out there. So, and rest of the technical issues, Air Marshal is good enough to explain those things. But coming to as your point.
No, but my point being that a lot of us, when we go out on trips nowadays, go via travel companies. Like, there are several portals. So, for example, in case of Trisha, who was in Manali and who went for zip lining, a lot of people book them via websites. So, as a travel company, do you, before signing a deal or a contract with those who provide ziplining facilities or any other sort of adventure tourism, do you do any sort of background checks? Have you come across people who look like they are cutting corners when it comes to safety parameters?
Agree, but coming to these particular areas, having only either some points around monopoly system, whether it is zipliners or helicopters, and there is no competitive enough. That's what we are telling you. Like the government should also give the competitive incentives to run these kind of things instead of keeping a monopoly thing. Now you have we travel agents only depend on these vendors, suppliers out there. So who is running these zipliners or helicopters or local bodies, local transport and local vendors? All companies depends across. So while we have an alternative option, then definitely we could check actually the good companies and then we could focus on that. But when it comes to the monopoly operators, so there is no nothing over there to left to focus on. But every travel company, big travel companies or suppliers are definitely concerned about the customer. We do check the things and we do have agreements to take care of, and we do have
what kind of accountability does a company have? The zip lining company, and if I could request our PCR to please play out the visuals from Manali of the 12-year-old girl whose zip line belt suddenly broke midair and she fell into a gorge. She had to undergo treatment. Obviously, she fell into a gorge that has rocky boulders. It can clearly be seen. So she would have sustained a lot of damage. Is there any protocol in place for companies who are responsible for incidents like these, for their licenses to be cancelled, for them to compensate the victims of incidents like these?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. Yes, it is. All the agreement says whenever the contractors are approaching to the governments, and definitely governments keep all the protocols, all the terms and conditions. What will happen if safety concerns lapse has happened, and the insurance, even the companies.
But in this case, sir, the girl's father so far hasn't pressed charges. So is the zipline operator going to get away with an incident like this? Probably tomorrow he'll start a service somewhere else.
They should provide the insurance and rest of the other lapses, whatever they happen, they need as a supplier. And these kind of activities, adventure activities, definitely should have insurance claims priorly. And they should take care of also the prior checks on being these vendors and suppliers.
Air Vice Marshal, in all of this, the buck clearly comes and stops with the government because it's not just zip lining. I've personally seen in Himachal, in Dharamshala, in McLeodganj, where you have paragliding taking place. We also had that incident of a paragliding adventure gone wrong and person losing his life. Is there anything that we can do to ensure as citizens, as tourists, because it looks like the government clearly is not being able to plug the loopholes over there, to be more vigilant when we go out to take care of our own lives?
Priyaji, these issues are a bit technical for a common man to understand. When you want to fly in a helicopter or even for a matter of fixed wing aircraft, to know whether the protocols have been followed towards the maintenance or the protocols have been followed towards the pilots or the weather, it would not be possible for a common man who's just a tourist to ensure that.
But could
For
we, sir,
that, you have
ask,
to
I'm
have
sorry
a
for
government-
interjecting, but could we, for example, ask that zipline operator for a license or a certificate that the government issues, or in case of helicopter operators also, something that would assure me as a tourist that I am in safe hands?
For a zip line, yes, it's a very, if I can use the word, entry level kind of an activity that you're doing vis-a-vis the flying operations. So even if you go to a helicopter base and you're now taking off to go to Kedarnath, and you get a statement from the company that they have followed the protocols, it is a statement that he has signed. I am not too sure how many people will actually understand what is written there in terms of protocols getting followed and corrected. But yes, there would be some kind of a barrier or some kind of an imposition upon the company to ensure that this happens and it is given to each passenger. That could be one of the steps that we could possibly start to begin with, where the company ensures that they give a handout to the people saying that protocols have been followed and it is signed by the operator who's operating the helicopter or the aircraft. That could be a step, but then that step is something which actually should be ensured by the government in terms of compliance, because they are the ones who are experts and they are the ones who need to keep in the spot. You see, the companies are paying money to the DGCA to get licenses. The DGCA people are being paid by the government to do their job, and it is the responsibility of the DGCA to ensure that wherever the helicopters are operating or the fixed wing aircraft operating, the protocols are followed.
Clearly, somebody there is sleeping on the job, which is leading to loss of lives for many, like the 7 people who died in Kedarnath accident today. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining me on this broadcast. Time for us to wrap up this bulletin.